Now it's going to be time for Refresh Global to join us on the stage. Vika Kanar. Let's put our hands together. And you're going to tell us all about disrupting the textile industry.
Yes, I will. And what an honor to be here today. Thank you. Especially taking the stage after David. I was at a very big conference last week at Slush, if anybody knows, 12,000 people. And I was, being from the fashion industry, I was looking at their shoes, and they all had these two letters to them. And I said, wow, this is really becoming a cult. So David, I don't see you, but it looks like you're really doing something amazing. So even more so, it's great to be here. Now, we're talking about what you already heard about a bit, which is, I will say it as it is, the ugly side of the fashion industry. The ugly side of what a lot of us love to do, and there's nothing bad to it. We buy clothes, we wear them, we gift them, we have a lot of them in our closets, and this is why we're also becoming part of this problem. And now you are not the only ones, we're all in it together. And it actually, if we want to give it numbers, it will accumulate to almost 100 million tons of textiles, which are going into landfill incineration, going into Africa. I don't know if anybody has visited Ghana or any of those countries. They basically have already long ago become our trash sites. And I want to just say one more thing about it is, when you hear the beautiful stories here being in Switzerland, and also maybe in some other countries, especially in Western and Northern Europe, you feel like, hey, it's already solved. It's happening. There are so many great initiatives. We don't have to worry anymore. We can continue buying our clothes. We can continue doing what we're doing. Oh, look, this label says it's recycled. We're good. But if you take a few more steps further away from that hub, you will see that the problems are really big. And again, this brings us back to those numbers. This brings us to 85% of the textiles. We're talking about clothing, but also home textiles and much more that do end up as trash. And that's one of the problems that we're here to solve at Refresh. The other problem is that if you come from other manufacturing industries, and let's say you have nothing to do with the textiles and fashion industry, then you will probably know that we're running out of resources, of natural resources. We have to look for alternatives. We can't anymore explore the first generation resources. And this is why at Refresh we decided that what we need to do is we should look into the two problems together, take our expertise in textiles, and see how we can create a solution from it. Let's talk about it. Now, we're backed by regulation, which is the somewhat good news. In the EU and also even in the States, there are now acts and regulation legislation being passed. And that means that in just about 2 years in the EU, all the fashion brands and textile manufacturers will have to create a take-back system. And we just heard an amazing idea or approach how to do it. But I can tell you that most of them out there don't have such a solution. Most of them don't even have the possibility to create an innovation department and do it in-house. So again, we need to be there for them. Now, what is it that we actually do at Refresh? Even though we have started out as fashion professionals, we worked in fashion weeks and worked with brands around the world, we understood that if we wanted to make a difference, we really have to go deep into the technology and the real matter behind of what can be done with clothing. And so what we do today, we basically have transformed into a white biotechnology company, which takes textile waste and transforms it into 3 new raw materials for manufacturing. It is based on certain fermentation and other processes, like I said, biotechnology, living process, and this is what it takes us to. We have 3 products. Now imagine that if you can do the check in your closets, very simple. Your clothes will mostly not be produced from just one material. This is what makes basically the complexity of how to recycle clothes properly without creating more damage to the environment. So once we understood that and also studied and saw how the behavior is in most countries, that's more or less the same. We did a pilot to understand also really what most clothes are composed of. And so what we understood that we had to have two solutions for the two big groups that clothes are composed of, the natural fibers and then the synthetic fibers. What we do today with natural fibers, we turn them into two new raw materials. One is bioethanol, and the other one is nanocellulose. If you haven't heard of it yet, that's fine. It's a very new upcoming material, which is in the future going to replace plastics, lamination, coating, and so on. And of course, they're completely biodegradable. But then we have also the other part, the polyester, which is going to be continued to be produced. It's going to be out there, and that too needs a solution. And for that too, we have a solution, because what happens after the process of the basically creating the two materials from the natural textiles, we're left with a sanitized pulp, and that can become basically be entered in a lot of different industries. Let's see some examples, what we're currently up to. Our current pilot is with Volkswagen, which came to us and said, we want to try out your second generation materials. And then we identified a product in the car. Actually, there are over 40 products inside the car which are made from textiles. And so we now started with one, which is the coverage of the luggage compartment, and we're now currently creating an alternative from our materials. The second one is this, which is made from not needed post-industrial called curtains. And this is the inside of an acoustic booth. I'm sure you've seen all of those in co-working spaces these days. This is normally being shipped from Asia all the way to Europe. Our client has to still ship it from there. And not only talking about the whole problem with shipping it so far away, it has become a problem with the pandemic to even get this on time. So they're very unreliable, very environment not friendly supply chains, and we're creating this alternative for them. And then finally, as an example, like I mentioned before, we have just a few months ago, we managed to succeed in creating our first fragrance made from hospital sheets, and a series of other methods. You can smell it. You won't get a rush. Come to me afterwards. Of course, we are naturally, as a green tech company, we're looking into not only how much CO2 we can save, but also water, which has been one of the biggest problems in the industry we're in. What's the business model? Very quickly, feedstock of textiles is everywhere. We heard the numbers. So we're taking them in, and then we're selling them at market prices, because that's what we've been able to do with the projection of our business model to the different customers in the different manufacturing industries. In the next step, we're going to start building our own facilities so that we can be even more productive and scale up. And then one of the possibilities could be, for instance, franchising, a microfactory as we call it. By the way, being built on a very green premise, that means that our microfactories could be in somewhat urban spaces. We envision it that we'll be working with all kinds of manufacturers which could take their waste and right away put it into a microfactory and then start the circular manufacturing or the circular approach. We're luckily not the only ones. There are great companies out there that are already looking into the space and maybe even started before us. What is the difference is that most of them are looking into recycling cotton because it's just much easier. You can get today jeans which have been completely 100% recycled. But we believe that if we want to make a real disruption, if we want to make a real change, we need to help all those that are really left over with all this textile waste, no matter what it's composed from. We're a team of two co-founders. We actually started out in Israel, and my co-founder is a designer, a fashion designer. I come more from the production side. I produced a lot of fashion shows around the world until both of us, I think, just had enough from seeing that we're just producing but not working with those that are taking responsibility. And we have great people in Germany, in Israel, and in some other places which work with us and have been really the main part of building this. We have raised €500,000 today, and we're very proud that Serpentine Ventures took us on. This was really a great milestone for us. And we're now looking to close our seed round so that we can continue expanding and preparing for building our first facility. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. for that great presentation.